Hello and welcome to a Warlords of Draenor video. So this time it's a bit of a cobbled together preview, honestly. So a few days ago there were a bunch of press events in San Francisco, in Versailles, and then in some place in Korea. I'm not exactly sure where. But what we do know is that a whole bunch of videos came out. Now I've watched all the videos and I've assembled together some interesting information from a lot of them, and I'm just gonna tell you about them. Of course, we do know via what Celestine said on Twitter a while ago that there is going to be a very large information dump very soon, so it'll be fun when that happens. Anyway, in this video I'm going to talk a little bit about the Frostfire Ridge, which is the Horde starting zone, then Shadowmoon Valley, and then after that I'm going to talk about some of the new Death Knight, Warlock, and Warrior talents that we were able to see the characters in these videos use. Now, the videos themselves are from a bunch of Korean sites. I will put links to the full versions down in the description. Now, first of all, let's have a talk about, let's talk about Frostfire Ridge. So the first thing that I noticed was that there are new sound effects in the game for the crackling of fire and also walking on snow. That sort of noise of snow compacting under your boot is definitely in the game, and what I did notice is that those new sounds are very crisp. They definitely feel like they're at quite a high bitrate and they're very good quality. That's definitely nice to see, and it adds an extra layer of, I guess, believability, if that's even a word, to the world, which is very nice. Definitely, it sounds a lot better than the current Blacksmith's Hammer, so yeah, well done. Now, another thing that I noticed is the Horde opening questline involves Drekthar, Thrall, and Durotan. And also Thrall himself is wearing Ogrim Doomhammer's armor, so he's walking around with the traditional Thrall armor, not Green Jesus, and he's wielding the Doomhammer, which all in all does look pretty cool, and it's a nice throwback to the previous history of that character. Now, as for Frostfire Ridge itself, honestly I think it looks absolutely amazing. I might even boost the level 90 Horde to see the place. What I particularly noticed is the Ogre Citadel, and just the really cool spectacle. There's just this kind of like, I suppose, volcanic rock bridge over to the Citadel, and the scale was so big. It really did feel like it was a Citadel made for ogres, and ogres are, of course, very large, so I think they definitely did an excellent job there. I also noticed that the snowdrifts look fantastic, and I think the reason for this is because the shading for the drifts is painted onto the texture, and it really does look quite nice, so I was happy to see that. Then another thing that I noticed is the music is very atmospheric in Frostfire Ridge. It's perhaps a little bit more booming in the Shadowmoon Valley zone, but I've got to say, just the snowdrifts and the music and just the way that all ties together, it feels very cohesive and atmospheric, and yeah, that's just my sort of initial impression for the place. And overall, from what I've ascertained, the Horde initial questline starts off with a small military campaign against the ogres, which does make sense, because that's what they told us it would be at BlizzCon. So, there you go. A little bit of a Horde preview for you. Overall, I think it's all shaping up quite nicely. So next we have Shadowmoon Valley, and things are a little bit different here. You start off by repelling an Iron Horde attack on the city of Karabor. Karabor is actually an old Draenei temple, although it is currently an outland known as the Black Temple. A bunch of lore events happened which led to the renaming. Anyway, so the person who was playing the game was rolling a hunter, and I noticed that there was a new bow effect. And it does sound quite a bit better. It sounds a little bit more realistic. There's more of a kind of a twang and thud sort of noise to it, which I think does make sense. They're certainly very different sound effects, but overall, personally, I like them, so that's quite nice. I also noticed that there was very, just like booming, epic style music in the background. It was very kind of like looming and impending, and it sort of fitted the idea of the Iron Horde assaulting with giant Gron and that kind of thing. So overall, that looked, well, it just sort of came together to produce quite a nice sort of effect through the place. It really did feel like the Temple of Karabor was under a ginormous assault, and also just based on the amount of NPCs that you saw about the place, yeah, it certainly did look like a large assault, and that was nice. Often it is very good when Blizzard do scale up the, well, just the amount of NPCs and that kind of thing, because it does make a lot of the actions and things that go on in the game feel a little bit more important. You know, it actually feels like a war zone, and I thought that was quite cool. And then another thing I just kind of picked up on is that the initial Alliance quests are far, far darker than what we saw in Pandaria. There's a lot of depth, death, although there probably is depth too, but mainly death, quite a lot of struggle by the looks of things, and that definitely does set the tone very nicely for the beginning of the expansion, and I was glad to see that, because personally, Pandaria's tone perhaps didn't really line up with what I enjoy in storytelling. Then, I suppose the last thing to say about Shadowmoon Valley specifically is that the moonlit landscape does look really nice. And it's also very good the way that the night is actually a little bit darker looking than it is currently. Now, one thing about that zone is that it's actually permanently in moonlight, so that does shape up quite well. And then the final thing I kind of picked up on is that Draenor, in terms of the in-game map, when you hit the M key, fits in right above Outland and Azeroth. So, yeah, there's that. They didn't have the graphic for it, though. Now, let's have a bit of a talk about talents. So, we only know the slight changes for the Death Knight, Warlock, and Warrior, because in the 3 videos that I saw and that have been released, they were the only 3 people who actually looked through the different abilities of the characters they were playing. So, Death Knights, at level 100, you're going to get a talent called Breath of Sindragosa, or at least that will be one of your talent choices, and this will continuously deal 2000 Shadow Frost damage every 1 second to enemies in a cone in front of you within 12 yards, and it will also affect them with a Mark of Sindragosa for 6 seconds, and then you will continue breathing until cancelled or your runic power is exhausted. The Mark of Sindragosa effect will cause you to be healed for 5% of the spell damage dealt by afflicted enemies. And then next for Warlocks, your level 100 talent, Chaotic Resources, has changed a little. For Demonology Warlocks, it will consume 30% of your current Demonic Fury to deal up to 3000 damage, and refund you up to 300 Demonic Fury if you have less than 50 Demonic Fury. Then for Destruction, your Incinerate and Conflagate will do 60% less damage, but generate 300% more Burning Embers. Then also your Fire and Brimstone can also affect Chaos Bolt. That Destruction one really does feel like a change up in the playstyle, so that's very interesting. Next, and finally for the Warriors, the level 100 talent, Blade Barrier from BlizzCon, has been replaced with Anger Management. Every 15 rage you spend will reduce the cooldown of one of your readiness affected abilities, i.e. pretty much a cooldown, by 1 second. So I think that's actually rather cool. So it does give you a good reason to dump your rage so you can get those cooldowns up a bit quicker. Then finally, for Arms and Fury, you will get an ability called Ignite Fury at level 100. This will replace Masochism and Extreme Measures. Ignite, what it does is that it will ignite your weapon and deal 100% weapon damage, or 140% if you're using a one-handed weapon, as fire, and it will also cause your auto attacks to deal fire damage for 10 seconds, and the ability is not on the global cooldown, and it does replace Heroic Strike. Now, if a Protection Warrior takes the equivalent talent of that tier, it will give them Gladiator Stance, I believe, which is basically a DPS tanking hybrid, which looks very interesting. And then finally, Bladestorm is now a level 90 talent, and Stormbolt is now a level 60 talent. So, there you go, that's the full lowdown on what we've learned. Of course, stay tuned, because within the next few days we are going to get a massive dump of information. In fact, Celestian said that it's currently 13,000 words long. I'm guessing that's just a draft or something, because that would be a very long press release, but we'll have to see what happens. Anyway, that's it for this quick little preview thingy. Do let me know what you think about those various zones, and if you want to watch the full videos, you can find links in the description. Thank you very much for watching, I hope you enjoyed the video, and I will see you next time.